Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into a true icon, a cultural force that, even nearly 5 decades after his death, still feels as present as ever. We are, of course, talking about the one, the only Elvis Presley.
And really, to get a handle on the sheer scale of his impact, you just need to start with this quote from John Lennon. I mean, come on. When the leader of the biggest band in history says that before you there was nothing, you know you didn't just have a career, you literally changed the world.
But that massive, massive legacy brings us to a really interesting question. It's the central mystery we're going to try to unravel in this explainer.
So what's the deal? Why isn't he just a black and white photo in some dusty old history book? Why do people from all corners of the globe still make that pilgrimage to Graceland? In short, why does the king still reign?
Okay, let's get into it. To find the answer, we got to go all the way back to the very beginning. And I don't just mean the start of a career. We're talking about a moment of pure creation, the honest-to-goodness big bang of rock and roll. The speed of his rise is just staggering. Seriously, think about this. In 1953, he's a shy 18-year-old kid making a record for his mom. Just 1 year later, he completely accidentally stumbles upon a sound that had never, ever existed before. And then, a mere 2 years after that, he's the biggest and most controversial star in America. Wild. And this quote? It just perfectly captures the magic of that moment. So the story goes, they're in a frustrating recording session, not getting anywhere. During a break, Elvis just starts goofing around, playing an old blues song, That's All Right Mama, but like super fast, full of this nervous energy. The band jumps in. When the producer, Sam Phillips, heard it and asked what on earth they were doing, they said, "We don't know." His response? Well, it changed music forever. And that new sound, it created an immediate cultural earthquake. I mean, it drew clear battle lines. The establishment, the critics, they were absolutely horrified. They called him vulgar, talentless, but for an entire generation of young people, my gosh, it was liberation. It was like a dam breaking. And hey, if you really want to wrap your head around his immediate reach, just look at this number, 60 million people. At the time, that was nearly 80% of the entire national television audience, all tuning in to see this guy they were being told was a menace to society. He wasn't just a singer anymore. He was a full-blown national event. But, after that incredible, meteoric rise, his career took a bit of a detour. He went to Hollywood, made a string of pretty forgettable movies. By the late 60s, a lot of people thought he was basically finished. But this just set the stage for one of the greatest second acts in the history of entertainment. Dressed head to toe in black leather, looking raw, magnetic, and just hungry, Elvis reminded the entire world, and probably himself, that he was still the king. This was no nostalgia act. It was a powerful, forceful reclaiming of his throne. It was nothing less than a resurrection. And he took all that renewed energy and he channeled it into Las Vegas, creating a stage show that was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. I mean, we're talking about a powerhouse rock band, a full orchestra, gospel backup singers, and Elvis himself using karate as this kind of ballet, turning these 3-minute pop songs into 7-minute dramatic epics. The rock critic Dave Marsh just absolutely nailed it here. This wasn't just a guy standing in a microphone singing songs. This was pure physical theater. That stage was his arena, and boy did he use every single inch of it. But here's the thing about Vegas. It was a classic double-edged sword. The highs were absolutely incredible. He was basically a god on that stage. But the lows were just devastating. That grueling schedule, 2 shows a night, trapped in a hotel suite, it all began to take its toll. The very thing that brought him back to life also started to consume him. And it was during this period that Elvis transformed from being just a rock star into something much bigger. He became woven into the very fabric of the country. He became an American symbol. And nothing shows this better than one of the most surreal moments in American history. In 1970, Elvis Presley just walks into the White House to meet President Richard Nixon. The photograph from that meeting is requested more often from the National Archives than the Declaration of Independence or photos of the moon landing. Think about that. He wasn't just a singer anymore. He was officially part of America's story.
And his influence wasn't just limited to America. Oh no! If you thought 60 million viewers on Ed Sullivan was a big deal, check this out. In 1973, his Aloha from Hawaii special was broadcast live via satellite across the entire globe. An estimated 1.5 billion people tuned in. That's more people than watched the moon landing. He was no longer just America's king. At that point, he belonged to the world.
Which, of course, brings us to the tragic end of his life and the immortal beginning of his legend. When he died at just 42 years old, the world just mourned. But even in that moment of really profound grief, there was this understanding. As one fan said, through tears, right outside the gates of Graceland, the man was gone, but the idea of Elvis, that was mortal. And this quote from the writer Greil Marcus just perfectly sums up the core paradox that makes Elvis so eternally fascinating. He was this larger-than-life superhero, but he was also deeply, tragically human. His story contains both triumph and heartbreak, and I think that's why we can still see piece of ourselves in it. So, why does Elvis still matter? Well, because he represents rebellion, reinvention, and those dizzying highs and devastating lows of the American dream, all rolled into one. But his brilliant story leaves us with one final, provocative question. Would his legend be as powerful if he had grown old? Or did his early death freeze him in time, making him forever young, forever the king? Definitely something to think about.